Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video. I am the Maize Madman. Before we get started, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you're aware every time I upload a video. Today's video, very simple. The recruiting war brewing up right now between Michigan and the other state. Blow after blow is being landed, and what I mean by that is recruit after recruit is choosing to go to either one of those schools, and I'll be talking about it all in this video. And of course, I'm upset. Since the West Coast fell off, the streets been watching. The West Coast never fell off. I was sleeping. Let's get to it. Michigan and the other state seem to be engaged in a serious arms race presently, with both teams landing elite level talent and swapping positions along 24/7's team ranking model for recruiting. The latest blow, or in this case, recruit landed for Michigan, was elite four-star offensive tackle Andrew Sprague out of Kansas City, Missouri, Rockhurst High School. That was quickly countered by the other state landing a pair of four stars in quarterback Aaron Nolan from the state of Georgia and Peyton Pierce, the linebacker out of Lucas, Texas, Lovejoy High School. It's like they wait for us to make a move and then they make a move. And it's flattering, right? Because imitation is the highest level of flattery. And they are imitating our moves, right? We got a quarterback, they went and got a quarterback. We got a four-star, they go get a four-star, right? It's disgusting is what it is. That vile, disgusting cesspool that is Columbus is following the moves of Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and it's disgusting. But let's get into it. Let's start with the battle of my home state, the battle of Ohio. Now, I do not live currently in Ohio. However, it is where I was born and raised. However, I was never a fan of that vile, disgusting, cesspool-laden school in Columbus. Not ever, not for a second was I a fan. Anyway, we have to start with the Battle of Ohio. The Wolverines have parlayed their on-field success into recruiting momentum in the state of Ohio, nabbing the #1 running back in that state in Jordan Marshall, as well as the top-ranked offensive lineman in that state, Luke Hamilton. Jordan Marshall and Luke Hamilton, both elite level guys, and especially Jordan Marshall, who was being recruited by the other state. There is, if you listen to the fans of the other state on social media, they'll swear that they weren't recruiting him as hard as, they were recruiting other people, but he's the #1 running back in your state. You were in need of a running back in the class. Of course you were recruiting him hard. Of course you were. He had multiple visits to that vile, disgusting cesspool that is Columbus before finally deciding to go with the good guys in A2. So don't try to sell us that bogus argument that you weren't really recruiting him. We know better. And we'll get into that in a second. Luke Hamilton obviously committed to Michigan after the game last November. He and Cameron Calhoun, who were both on the other state sideline during that game, and immediately afterwards were partying and having a good time with Michigan players. That had to hurt. I know it hurt. Those people in Columbus in the state of Ohio, they were hurt a little bit about that. I know it. Now, of course, the hurt of losing that game in pristine conditions, by the way, in Columbus, in the toilet bowl, in the shitter. By the way, shout out to the guy who gave me the name, the shit shoe in Columbus. Shout out to him in the comment section. You can't tell me you guys weren't feeling away. But anyway, I've already been sidetracked here because we need to get back on track. So Michigan pulls the number one running back out of your state, the number one offensive lineman, interior or otherwise, in your state, in Luke Hamilton, right? Then they move on, also get commitments from 4-star defensive lineman Ted Hammond, who was the second-ranked defensive lineman in that state. By the way, Michigan has the crystal ball for the number one ranked lineman in that state, in Brian Robinson, but I digress. They move on. We move on, rather. We get the 10th ranked rated prospect in that state in 3-star Ben Roebuck, a massive human, which gives Michigan 4 of the top 12 players in the state of Ohio. Let me say it again. 4 of the top 12 players in the state of Ohio have already committed to Michigan in the class of 2024. And it's not over. Things are far from settled in that state, as both Michigan and the other state have vested interest in the numbers 1, 3, 4, and 6 ranked players in that state, with the other state having crystal balls for 3 of the top 4, of 3 of those 4, of those mutual targets. They have 3 of those 4, and the Wolverines have the crystal ball for the other, which I've already went over in Brian Robinson. Expect a heated battle for what's left there. It's going to come down to those 2 schools, to those 2 programs, and I expect it to get ugly. Now let's move on really fast. We did the Battle of Ohio. Let's go to the Battle of North Carolina. This one really came down to 5-star quarterback Jaden Davis. This recruitment took on many twists and turns, with Davis ultimately declaring for the Wolverines his preferred destination. However, and there is a however here, it didn't come without its own level of drama, as initially Davis was considered a lock for the other state, but when how do I say this? When he who shall not be mentioned left that vile, disgusting cesspool in Columbus and turned the program over to everyone's favorite third baseman, Ryan Day decided Davis wasn't a priority, which allowed for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan to swoop in and woo Davis, which they did. It appeared to be a no-brainer for Jim until he flirted with the NFL again. Then Davis's main recruiter, Michigan's co-offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, Matt Weiss, was found to be Eric Snowden's successor and subsequently relieved of his duties as co-offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. It left the door open for the other state, who was fresh off losing the top quarterback and recruit in the country in Dylan Raiola. And they took advantage. Immediately, they were meeting with Davis, causing some anxious weeks for those folks in Ann Arbor and the fans of Michigan. But fret not, Michigan, because it was Jim Harbaugh's genius hire of Kirk Campbell, a hire that I must admit I questioned the validity of immediately, right? Immediately, I was questioning the Kirk Campbell hire. However, he's turned out to be a rock star and one of my favorite recruiters at Michigan. So shout out to you, Kurt. But Kirk Campbell was hired as Michigan's new quarterback coach. That helped keep Davis blue all the way. And now the 5-star quarterback that Michigan so desperately coveted is a Wolverine as of this moment, right? Michigan is still working to land a pair of pass catchers out of the state of North Carolina. 4-star Channing Goodwin, who is a Michigan legacy recruit and his teammate, and a teammate rather, of Davis at Providence Day School, as well as another wide receiver target, Jordan Shipp, who is also a teammate of Davis and Goodwin. I feel like Michigan's biggest challenge in that recruitment, or the biggest threat in those recruitments, is North Carolina. But I do expect Michigan to land at least one of them, and I'm going to give them the best chance to land Channing Goodwin. But if they landed both of them, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Before we move on to the next part of the battle, or what I am calling the Midwest side story here in this recruiting battle between Michigan and the other state, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you watch the videos but you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It won't hurt you. It doesn't cost a penny to be a little friendly. Also, hit the notification bell so you're aware every time I upload a video. The best videos in the Michigan stratosphere on YouTube, by the way, as told by the fans of the channel. This isn't me tooting my own horn. But anyway, moving on. Also, before we move on, I will be live tonight at 6 p.m. on the Maize and Blue and Gold show with my guy Ryan Fravel of Week 0. Make sure you tuned in. Make sure you are tuned in, rather, because I am going to light Ryan up like I always do every week, especially when it comes to Michigan recruiting. And the unfortunately, Ryan is a Notre Dame fan, so he'll get it for being a Notre Dame fan. But we both have a mutual enemy, and that is the other state. So that is where we can come together until it is time to go at each other, of course. But anyway, make sure you tune in to that live 6 p.m. Be there, be square, have your questions ready. We were over flooded with questions the last time. Make sure your questions are ready. I try to get to as many as possible. I'm sorry if I can't get to everyone's questions, but you know how to put your questions up top. Be a little friendly. That's all I'll say. But let's move on to the landscape, right? The recruiting landscape. Both teams have plenty of recruiting left to do, right? Some of the nation's top targets are planning to visit both programs in the coming weeks and months. Let's get back to those top recruits in the state of Ohio really fast. Number one, Aaron Scott, the number one recruit in the state of Ohio, is a cornerback out of Springfield, Ohio. He currently has crystal ball to the other state. However, Michigan is very, very involved in this recruitment, and it would not surprise me if Michigan landed Aaron Scott. That being said, the competition is heating up. Michigan was a part of his top 12 schools that he just recently released. That included, of course, the other state, USC, Oregon, Notre Dame. The list goes on, right? The best of the best programs are part of that 12. However, I do think Michigan is second only to the other state currently, and hopefully they can change that. Now let's move right along. Glenville High School 4-star cornerback Bryce West, who I would have thought, if you asked me this question a month ago, I would have thought was a Michigan lean. However, apparently he has now received multiple crystal balls to the other state, which doesn't really surprise me because the head coach there is Ted Ginn Sr. Obviously, Ted Ginn Jr. went to the other state. We all know that. And that school tends to be a heavy other state leaning school. Obviously, Ted Ginn Sr. pushing and, promoting his talent to go to the other state, which, I'm not going to knock him for. However, if you want to win, just saying, Ann Arbor is the right choice. All right, so we've got those two. Then, of course, there's Brian Robinson, who is also a Michigan lean currently, who is the only Michigan lean of those two that I just talked about. But he is a Michigan lean, and I expect Michigan to land Brian Robinson. He is a top flight edge, elite edge. You got to check out his workout videos. They're insane. He is a massive human who it will be tough to stop on Saturdays. So hopefully he does the right thing and goes to Michigan. All right, so we talked about Ohio. We move on. Michigan has work to do, but I'm sure that they are all for it, as they have Aaron Childs in the state of Maryland. There's Darian Mayo, a teammate of Aaron Childs, also in the state of Maryland, in that DMV area where I currently reside. I expect Michigan to win those recruitments, especially the Childs recruitment. Right now, I believe Childs has multiple crystal balls to Michigan currently. I expect them to be able to land Childs. Darian Mayo might take a little more work. I hear he is very interested in like Notre Dame. Also, Childs will be visiting Notre Dame, but I'm not really worried about that. I expect Michigan to land Childs. He is a linebacker, by the way, 4-star linebacker out of good counsel in Olney, Maryland. So along with those guys, you got guys like Elijah Rushing out of Arizona, who has Michigan interest, who is trying to set up an official visit to Michigan. Brandon Baker, the number 1 offensive tackle in the class, also planning to visit Michigan. Had to cancel his most recent planned visit, but is planning to get back out very soon. And also schedule an official, right? He's supposed to get his list down after these spring visits that he takes that will include Michigan. I'm not saying his list will include, I'm just saying the spring visits will include Michigan. And hopefully Michigan, though, is a part of that. There's Bennett Warren, who is the number 5 offensive tackle in the class. There's Blake Frazier, who is an elite 4-star out of Texas, who Michigan covets, right? Taylor Tatum, another running back that Michigan covets out of the state of Texas. The other state, of course, Dylan Stewart, who some say is an other state lean, also visited Michigan, had fond things to say about Michigan. That will be another battle between these two schools, Dylan Stewart. I'm not saying that those are the only 2 schools, but this is obviously 2 of the top schools vying for his commitment, right? Throw in South Carolina, throw in Georgia. I'm sure Alabama is lurking around there somewhere for Dylan Stewart. So it's really going to be an interesting way this plays out, ladies and gentlemen. But I do expect Michigan to be on top on the field. That's what matters the most, right? This year, going for the 3rd straight over our arch rival, those vile, disgusting, cesspool-lating, other state Buckeyes. Anyway, make sure you follow the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at Maize Madman. Tune in live tonight as I will be live on the channel right here, right back at you live. You know what time it is? It's time for those Triple M shout outs. Let's get to it. The first Triple M shout out is going to go out to One Crazy Who Dat. You are officially a madman. Thank you for patronizing the channel and your continued support. The next one is going to go to Everett Donaldson Jr. You are officially a madman. Thank you for your support. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to give this one to John A. Schultz. You are officially a madman. Thank you for your support. Be sure, again, to follow me on Twitter. Until next time, as always, I'm upset.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might be our best season ever.